Great. Okay. Good. We're on. So, greetings from Tokyo. Just give me 1 second here while I set up. I think we're live. Great. So, and there we go. Sorry, just give me 1 second here while I set up. This is fine. And let's see here. Great. Great. I apologize for the impromptu session again, but I hope you can forgive me. If not, then c'est la vie, but hopefully you can forgive me. And I just wanted to, just give me 1 more second here while I set up my computer. And great. So the chat is open, and I don't plan on staying too long. There isn't any particular special news or anything that makes me or compels me to do this live stream, except to say, and in a live format, Happy New Year. I know it's a little bit late. I know what is it now? It's January 5th, 2020. But, and I've already put up a number of videos already since the start of the new year, but I thought it might be more appropriate to extend to you in a live video here my sincerest greetings to you. Happy New Year, and I hope your 2019 ended well, and I hope that your 2020 is off to a fine start. And I mean that not only in terms of cinema watching, because of course the main focus of a lot of the videos that I do on this YouTube channel is essentially talking about cinema and films and the like. But my hopes for you, and I hope that you have that your new year is off to a fine start, is of course not only in respect of watching fine movies, but that counts too, of course. I hope you're watching a lot of great movies, but that's not all, my friends. I'm also just hoping that things are well with you in general. I hope things are okay with you, and that you didn't find yourselves too busy or anything like that. But even if you did, I hope things were calm, or things have calmed down and the like. So this is just my general greetings to you, and I hope that your 2020 is off to a very, very fine start. I took some time off, and I see from my YouTube notifications feed that I've received a number of comments over the past several days that I've, as of now, not answered, and so I have to apologize to you for that. I don't think I'll be able to get to those until maybe tomorrow, my time, and so I'll do my best with those. But I really want to thank you very much for those of you maybe who left a comment behind, and I haven't yet responded to that as of this point in time. I should say I'm very sorry for not responding as quickly as I could, but I hope you can understand, and I'll certainly get to those as soon as I can, starting I think tomorrow. I'm back in Tokyo, and I've been back for a couple days now, and so I was able to recommence with the John Carpenter project that I started some months back. As some of you may know, I am usually very slow when it comes to the sort of long-term projects that I try to engage with here on this channel. So I started the John Carpenter thing maybe I want to say maybe in September 2019 or so, maybe around that time. And I've been very slowly trying to go through his entire filmography, as some of you may know. So I was able, at last, I did some videos on The Thing last year, the tail end of last year, but I must admit that after I finished those videos, I was a little bit spent of energy with respect to John Carpenter, and so I took a little bit of a a break from that, a mini break. And it was good timing too, because I think around that time it was turning into December and end of year stuff and all that entails. And so it allowed me to focus my energies on other things and my schedule and all that stuff as well, my work schedule and my family schedule and the like. So, but it was really nice to get back into the John Carpenter film groove, as it were. It was really nice, and I was able to, at long last, upload a video where I was able to talk about two films that have been on my mind for some time, Christine and Starman. So I was very much pleased to be able to get those videos uploaded and to get those comments, to express them in a video format. It was very liberating after I finished that, to be, if I were to confess as to my feelings about those. I was very happy about those, and so if you're interested in that, please check those out. There's no hurry, of course, and I wouldn't watch them if you haven't seen the films yet, because I do talk about details of the ending and specific plot points, and so it would be a shame if you saw those videos of mine and didn't see the films yet, because they're really worth watching. Not for everyone, of course. Sometimes these films can be a little bit intense. They might not necessarily be for everyone, but I do want to encourage anyone who is interested in John Carpenter's films but have not yet necessarily seen the films Christine and Starman to give those films a chance, because I think they're really interesting moments in Carpenter's career, a really great career. And so I'm so happy to be able to share with you just a few thoughts that I have about those films, if only because it gives me the opportunity, of course, to get your feedback, which is always so critical and crucial and very important for me. So that's basically where I am with that. And I don't have any grand ambitions or plans or anything like that for 2020 and this YouTube channel necessarily, which is another way for me to say, I suppose, that it's just going to be maybe, what is the phrase, business as usual, and just going about it as best as I can. And if I have trying to fit in time to make a video here and there as much as possible, of course. But it's just going to be the same old stuff. So if that isn't your cup of tea, then I'm sorry about that. But if you don't mind that kind of approach that I have, then by all means, please join me for some more discussions later on this year. So I look forward to that very much. And let's see here, just very quickly, let me say hello to those of you who are out there. So the Cinematheque, hello, it's nice to talk with you again. How are you this evening, you ask? I'm doing very well. It's now Sunday evening here in Japan. It's now 10 p.m. here. And so I'm just enjoying, I guess, my last day of vacation before I have to go back to work tomorrow morning. But it's enough time off for me. I feel somewhat energized, and so it'll be nice to be back and get back to the regular flow of things, I suppose. But I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. How are you doing, by the way, my friend? I hope you are well, and Happy New Year. Carl, our dear friend Carl's here. Happy New Year, Desk. Well, Happy New Year to you too, Carl. I hope you're doing well, my friend. LJ, our dear friend. Happy New Year, Desk. Hoping your family had a good one. Yes, very much so. I think my eldest still has a little bit of of school vacation left. She has, I think, about 5 more days, I think. So she'll be trying to, she has a little bit of homework that she has to finish. So that'll be something that will probably occupy some of her time during the remainder of her holidays. Incidentally, she and I watched the movie, or rewatched the movie, Kiki's Delivery Service, the Studio Ghibli movie. And I've seen the film many times, and she has actually seen the film a number of times as well. But it's always nice to revisit that film, and I felt that it was a very good choice for me as the first film to watch in 2020. So I enjoyed that very much. It was a nice time. And we saw that on a DVD that I have. Actually, I have that on DVD. And then I later got a big Blu-ray set of these Studio Ghibli films that was on sale here in Japan. But I love that film so much. I actually owned it. I don't have the VHS tape anymore, but I used to have it on VHS that was sold in Japan. And I actually also had the VHS tape that was in sort of these clamshell covers. I don't know if you recall that, but that was also the English language version. I think it was it Kirsten Dunst and Phil Hartman, if I recall. And so that was really great. And then I later got the DVD, which was sold here in Japan. And then much later than that, I got the Blu-ray set. But that had also not just the film Kiki's Delivery Service, but also other Studio Ghibli films that were directed by Miyazaki. There's also a second set, a different set that were of the films directed by Takahata Isao, but the Miyazaki set was also one that I got, and that of course includes the film Kiki's Delivery Service. But for purposes of the film watch that my daughter and I did, we saw it on the DVD, the Japanese DVD. And so let's see, LJ was watching your video on Starman when your live chat came on. Well, thank you very much for that, LJ. And I'm sorry to interrupt your schedule like this with my impromptu live stream here. I really should make a schedule like this, but I tried it, but it's a little bit, I must admit that I feel a little bit more liberated. Actually, that's a poor way of saying it, and I apologize, but I feel it's a lot easier for me to do a live stream when I don't have to think about it, if you know what I mean. It's a little bit more difficult for me to have to stick to a particular time and do something like, say I have to start at precisely this time and that time. It's the same thing with videos. I tend to be a little bit random, and I don't have a set schedule. I tend to be more I feel a little bit more amiable towards having just do it as I am able to sort of attitude, and so that's why I do this rather randomly. So I apologize for that, but I hope you are enjoying the Starman video that I uploaded. The Cinematheque then asks, do you have any films planned for this evening? Yes, I do actually. I was spending some of my holiday time outside of Tokyo, and where I was staying, the internet connection is not so good. I mean, we do have some internet connection, but it's not the best, and so I didn't have that much access to internet, and also there wasn't that much time to watch movies over the course of the new year. I had planned to watch a few. I brought my portable Blu-ray player, and I brought a little set of discs, Blu-ray discs. It was from, the Alfred Hitchcock Blu-ray set. I don't know if you know that, but it had, I didn't bring all of the Blu-rays, but I brought maybe half of them from the later period. And I was actually interested in rewatching the film Torn Curtain. I don't know if I had seen the film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Tarantino film, and I haven't, but I seem to recall that there is actually a connection a musical connection between Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Tarantino film, and the Alfred Hitchcock film Torn Curtain. And I think watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood made me really want to rewatch the Hitchcock film Torn Curtain again. I know it's not necessarily heralded as being the greatest film directed by Alfred Hitchcock ever. It's not necessarily considered to be a great masterpiece of Alfred Hitchcock, but there are some very maybe redeemable qualities is a poor way of putting it, but there are some very interesting, quirky choices that are made in that film that I think merit at least some attention and some discussion. And in particular, there's a very famous scene in that film that has a particular choice when it comes to the use or non-use of music. And so I was very keen on watching that film again, and having been reminded of a particular moment in that film based off of an early scene that appeared in the Tarantino film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And so I was planning on watching maybe that Hitchcock film, but I ended up not being able to because of time restraints. And so I ended up instead spending the New Year time watching the Studio Ghibli film with my daughter. But as far as I did spend my some of my time, a lot of time spent on trains here, and I spent my time listening to some podcasts. And I actually discovered a podcast that I didn't know about, but I just randomly discovered it, and I thought it was really great. And it's been going on for a number of years now. It's called All About Agatha, and it's all about Agatha, and it's about the works of Agatha Christie. And I don't know if I might have mentioned it once or twice in some random videos, but I've always been a huge fan of the works of Agatha Christie. I've been reading her works since I was a little kid. When I was a little boy, I used to live in the United Kingdom. It was during the late 80s and early 90s, so about 3 or 4 years. And this was during the time of Margaret Thatcher, and Sylvester McCoy was the Doctor in Doctor Who, and this was also the time of Edwina Currie and the Salmonella egg scare. And this was also the time when it was only Neighbours that was the juggernaut Australian soap of the day. But around this time, the new soap opera emerged, and it started, which was Home and Away. Home and Away, I remember watching the debut episode of Home and Away when it was broadcast on British TV, and also Neighbours with, I used to watch that was with Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan. And their characters had a little bit of a relationship as well, and I think they capitalized on that, and they released a single. What was it called? Especially for You. I don't know if you remember that single with Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan, but if you look up on YouTube, type in the words "Especially for You," and you'll maybe find the music video for that. But that was really great, and also Mrs. Mangle and Harold and all that stuff. But what was I saying? But yeah, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, so I was living in England, and I was very young, and this is due to my father's business. He got transferred to the London office, and so it was a wonderful opportunity to be there. And I remember and I remember too that I was fascinated by a broadcast of the Miss Marple BBC series starring Joan Hickson. And I remember one of the first things I ever saw on TV, it must have been broadcast around 1987, was the BBC adaptation of the Agatha Christie novel called Sleeping Murder. And this was a Miss Marple novel, which was adapted into this BBC adaptation starring Joan Hickson as Miss Marple. And I know that there have been many other subsequent Miss Marple interpretations most recently, but I'm I will always stand by the Joan Hickson Miss Marple series. I find that to be the most endearing, charming depiction of Miss Marple. And in fact, I love the Joan Hickson Miss Marple series so much that I don't really watch the more recent Marple series. They're really fine productions and they're great performances. Don't get me wrong, but I really just love the Joan Hickson series so much that I'm just satisfied with that, and that's the way it goes. I think, at least for my particular perspective, is, and also the David Suchet Poirot series, which came a little bit later, but I'll get to that in a second. But yes, so the first thing I ever saw on TV was Sleeping Murder. And it was a 2-part episode, and it was broadcast whatever day of the week it was, and then you had to wait a week in order to watch part 2, the final part. And so I remember watching part 1, and there was a VCR, and I was able to record it on a VHS tape. And I recorded part 1, and it was so fascinating to me that I just watched it over and over and over again during the course of that week in anticipation for the part 2 episode. And I fell in love with it immediately. And I think it was that week that I went to what was it? My parents took me to the local, we were living in Guildford, Surrey. I don't know if you know this, Guildford, Surrey at the time. And I was just suddenly, my life changed. And so my mother was so kind enough to take me to, what was it, the local W.H. Smith. I don't know if they have those anymore in England, W.H. Smiths, but she took me to a W.H. Smith, and they had those paperbacks of Agatha Christie novels, these small paperbacks. I think they're £2.50 each. And so she was very kind enough to purchase one for me. And I remember, I think it was Poirot's Early Cases. It was a collection of short stories featuring Hercule Poirot. And it was good because they were short stories, and they were bite-sized morsels of stories. And I think her novels are probably more sophisticated and much more famous, but it was a good entry point for me. And at that particular age, to start with Poirot's Early Cases. And so from then on, I was just hooked, and I devoured as many of the stories as I could, and I tried to get into the novels. I admit I didn't understand every single detail that came up. A lot of the stuff flew over my head, and sometimes adult situations were presented in the novels or in the stories that I didn't necessarily understand. But gradually I picked up a few things. I remember when I was, I don't know how old I was, maybe 8 or 9 or something, I don't know, but when I'm 8 or 9 and I'm reading these novels, and I'm reading, for instance, The 450 from Paddington, and then I go and watch the BBC adaptation again with Joan Hickson as Miss Marple, the great Joan Hickson as Miss Marple, and they're talking about a particular will setup, testate setup, which is a very key part of the plot of 450 from Paddington. And Miss Marple is asking about a particular will setup, and she realizes that the will setup is in fact a tontine. A tontine. And I was like, what the heck is a tontine? But it was an interesting, it's an interesting thing. It's one of those things where you just start to pick up these words and try to figure out what they meant. It was really fascinating. The same thing was true for the adaptation of Nemesis, the novel Nemesis, also with Joan Hickson, which is one of the finest Christie TV adaptations I've ever seen, with Joan Hickson, Nemesis. And I remember the word that was, I just didn't understand what it meant, but I was trying to look it up, was they used the word inculabra. That's not the word inculabra. I think it's the plural for inculabrum. And so they were talking about, they were in a particular museum or a library, which had in showcases old manuscripts. And I think one of the descriptions was inculabra. And so that was a really interesting word to encounter when I was, however old I was, 7, 8, 9, or whatever it must have been. Um, but yes, so I was just enthralled, and I just devoured all the novels that I could, and I tried to read as much as I could. And around this time, the David Suchet, Agatha Christie's Poirot series, I think it was ITV, I think, premiered. And I remember that was such a big deal at my school at the time, and our friends, we were just so enthralled. What was the first episode of that? I want to say it was The Adventure of the Clapham Cook. I want to say that, but don't quote me on that. I do remember though, the second episode was Murder in the Mews. I thought that was a great episode. That was really fantastic, and it just solidified my love of Agatha Christie. But I bring it up because I discovered over the course of this New Year's a wonderful podcast called All About Agatha, where these two great and lively people just talk about each of the stories or the novels, and they rate them and they evaluate them, and they talk about TV and film adaptations and the like. And so I was just hooked on it, and it reminded me so much of my love of the works of Agatha Christie, and so much so that I just began to reread some of them again because I had some time on my hands, and they were really wonderful to revisit. And so I was so excited, and I've been inspired to watch some of the Agatha Christie adaptations that I have on TV and film. And so I think tonight, after I'm done with this, I might watch something. Maybe I'll watch a version of And Then There Were None. I don't know if you know this story, but And Then There Were None was really, that's probably her most famous story. And there have been so many film adaptations of that, as well as I think it was a BBC adaptation. There was Philip Lombard in The Towel, but actually that adaptation is actually quite accurate to the novel. And even the Philip Lombard towel scene, I would suggest is actually not so far removed from the novel, because there's a particular scene in the novel, And Then There Were None, which has something akin to something that we see depicted in that BBC adaptation from a couple years back, maybe a few years back. I think it was a really great one, really great adaptation. Very dark, very brooding, quite moody, and very, very disturbing. So I think what I'll do is I've just been my passion for Christie stuff has been reignited. And so maybe I'll watch it, or maybe I'll watch the Seven Dials Mystery again. I love that adaptation, yeah. So that's what I'll probably be watching. So sorry for the very long-winded answer, Le Cinémathèque. I hope you don't mind that, but that's probably what I'll be watching. So Cine Arts, hello, Happy New Year. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Cine Arts, our dear friend with the great YouTube channel. He has such a wide range on his channel, everything from The Godfather to Police Academy and everything in between. If you haven't checked out Cine Arts, you gotta check it out. What a great channel. Inga Buvik, I hope I got that pronunciation correct. If not, I sincerely apologize. Happy New Year from Norway. Well, thank you very much, Inga. Happy New Year to you too. So greetings from Tokyo. LJ says, well done on your Christine video, and so far the Starman one is really good too. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Going to share your Christine on another site where there's a lot of fan of the... Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you for doing that. I hope it doesn't disappoint the fans of that film. There were a number of comments on Christine that I realized that I neglected to make, or I should have made more elaborations on. I don't think I talked. I'll try to be as vague as possible. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I don't think I wanted to talk more about the whole thing with LeBay, and the old man, and his what he represented, and I didn't really touch on that. I really did want to talk about that more. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the Stephen King novel. It wasn't meant to be a compare-contrast discussion comparing and contrasting the book with the film, but there are some notable differences that the film takes that takes the story away from the original source novel. I talked about it a little bit, but not as well as I think I could have. So I do have a few regrets about that, but that's the way it goes with my format here. I really should plan it out a bit more, but it's more of a free-form talk, and sometimes, or a lot of times, I tend to forget things that I had initially planned to talk about, but ended up not doing so during the moment. But I hope your fellow Christine fans enjoy. If not, then that's fine. But if so, that makes me very happy. Isaac Dunn, hello. It's nice to see you. Happy New Year, my friend. John Perry, Happy New Year and wishing you a productive year on YouTube. Thank you very much. Thank you. Quick question that you have probably been asked before. Will Criterion go into 4K, and would you dive into 4K for that? The answer is I'm not sure. There have been some like real meta discussion and analysis made of the recent New Year's Clue from Criterion. I don't know if you saw that. It was the grid of 4 different things, and I think the consensus is that we're going to get 4 box sets. I don't know. Hopefully it'll be this year, but who knows? But the consensus, we're probably going to get 4 box sets. What was it? The Wong Kar-wai set, Fellini set, Agnes Varda. I particularly loved I really appreciated the Agnes Varda clue, assuming that it is indicating Agnes Varda, because I think it's a further indication of how to pronounce the name Agnes. It's on yes, so I really appreciated that. And also the 4th set, I think the consensus is going to be a Bruce Lee set, which is great because I don't know if you have those Shout Select Blu-rays. I have those, the Game of Death, Chinese Connection, and Fists of Fury, as well as a separate release of Enter the Dragon, of course, and also the Return of the Dragon from the Hong Kong period, the early period of Bruce Lee's career, but the early short career, of course. Those are great films, and those are really great releases. The commentaries are really great. They're a little bit hard to listen. Maybe the recording was a little bit muffled in some places, but the content of the commentary, I think, is really great. Really great. I saw Return of the Dragon. That was the first film I saw of Bruce Lee's, and I saw that when I was such a little kid, way back, and it was a rental video. And there were some moments that even now I find so exhilarating and fun and very cheesy and also very endearing. Really nice. Bruce Lee and Bruce Lee was just so cool, and I had this huge crush on what's her name, Nora Miao, I think her name is. What a great presence, and she was so she was kind of feisty, and also she was very concerned about the restaurant, and she wanted to succeed as well, and she was trying to find some solutions. So she was trying to figure out solutions to the problems as well, and she had a really great presence. I guess I was a little bit smitten at the time. And perhaps I still am, but yeah, so that was the first film I ever saw of Bruce Lee's, and what was it? So yeah, what was I saying? So yes, so there were the 4 pictures, and some people have even gone so far to interpret this to mean 4 as in 4K, and I don't know if I'd go that far. But you never know, and I don't have any insight into Criterion's thinking. I don't work for Criterion. I don't have any inside connection with Criterion. I don't have any inside information with respect to Criterion, not at all. But again, I really don't know. It's not clear to me how far 4K has really caught on in the home media market. Of course, there have been some really famous 4K releases up to date right now, but again, it's not clear to me. it might be the way to go. But then again, we're also talking about what Criterion will do, not just in terms of going into 4K or not, but also in terms of the physical media market as a whole. I mean, we always have to be wary of that as time passes. As with each passing year, there's more chance that maybe physical media will fall by the wayside, at least in certain key market areas, and so we have to keep that in mind. And so I think that whole decision, that's my hunch anyway, the whole decision of whether or not to do this is inherent in the general view that Criterion and other similar labels have as to the sustainability of this particular physical media market, or are they instead going to go all in with their streaming, and if so, are they going to try to update and upgrade the technology, the streaming technology, to suit the tastes of the current market, and so that's kind of a big discussion, and I can only speculate, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. That's for sure. Okay, so. X24 Rider, hello. Thank you very much, and also thank you very much. I really enjoyed your videos. It was really nice to hear that. Jay Betty, hello. Hope you're well. As it's only early January 2020, but I feel like I've known you longer. Yes, indeed. Yes, I feel like we have known each other for a long time, but I think it hasn't been that long in the grand scheme of things. So it's really amazing. So I hope you're having a great start to the new year, my friend. Yes, X24 Rider, I gave you a shout out on my Instagram, just so you know. Yes, I caught that, and I caught that video, and you gave a great shout out to a lot of people. I was really impressed. You really have a great rapport with your viewers and your audience. That's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Much better rapport than I do, because the way you did that, and you recalled all this information and specific details. It was great, so lovely, and I was so proud to have been included in that. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. I hope you're having a great start to the new year, my friend. Let's see. LJ, thank you very much. Anita Bong hit 2.0. Hello, it's nice to see you. Happy New Year. Good morning from Arizona. Hello. I hope I hope the weather is nice in Arizona right now. Cinema Texas just got done watching My Brilliant Career for the first time. Oh, great. I did mention that film somewhat prominently during those final set of Criterion-related uploaded videos that I did on this YouTube channel at the tail end of 2019, if I recall. So that makes me very happy. That makes me, I must say that I get the occasional message now and again saying, in particular, I think it's the film A Brighter Summer Day. I get the occasional message saying to me, "Oh, thank you very much, because I was encouraged to watch A Brighter Summer Day," or something like that, and those sorts of messages really make me very happy. It really makes me very happy. It's not because it's my video has so much effect on people. Nothing like that. That's not what I mean. But what I mean is that it makes me so happy that I get a message from someone who's so excited, having seen a film that I also love. I really love, and so to feel that excitement from someone having seen, let's say, a film that I really love for the first time, and just feeling that, it's really wonderful, because it's something that I can never recapture. As much as I love a particular film and I want to watch it, and I get a kick out of watching it, there's nothing like watching a film like that for the first time. And so it's really great to hear that. So I'm so happy that you had just finished watching My Brilliant Career for the first time. Isn't that a great film? That is such a great film. Judy Davis, Sam Neill, in particular, Judy Davis, my goodness, just so rich and complex. And it's labeled as being, and it's in a general, maybe in a specific sense, it's considered in some circles anyway to be a quote-unquote feminist film, but I don't think that that's the point of the film, at least as far as I connect with it. It's just so much about Judy Davis's character that's so understandable and so relatable, about just wanting to be not just having the feeling of freedom or liberation, but more to the point, it's having the room to try to discover what it is you want to do. Not necessarily wanting to do what you want to do, but having the room to be able to discover what it is you want to do. And I think that's so relatable. It's something that I know that I felt when I was in my early 20s, just leaving school and trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. And so at least as far as that kind of view of the film, I can completely relate to that. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I just connect with that film so much. Thank you. Thank you. You've made me very happy here to Cinematheque. Thank you so much for that. Let's see. And Carl says, just at a Criterion Shop, Daisuke being there, which is out here in the UK too. Oh, great. The Naked Kiss, great. Which is a Fuller film I've not actually seen. And Shampoo. Oh, I haven't spoken about, I don't think I've spoken about Being There or Shampoo. I really should one of these days. They're really worth it. And you also got some indicators too. The Reckless Moment, yes, which is such a wonderful, quite forgotten noir gem. I agree. Jay Betty says, do you collect soundtracks as well as films? I don't collect as many soundtracks as I used to. Maybe not collect. I don't know if I describe it as being collect, but there are a number of soundtracks that I like to listen to. The one that I think I listen to the most. There are two that I listened to the most very recently. One being the Tom York Suspiria soundtrack, or as I think Mark Kermode says, Thom York. I love that soundtrack. I listen to that, what's the phrase, ad nauseum, and I still do. I think that's some of the great stuff. The song Suspirium is great, but my favorite song is I know people use, was it Volk? Because of it has a certain appeal to it, and it was used in one of the trailers as well. But it's got this ominous tone to it. But the song that I really love is Unmade. I think that was a great song, and I still do. I listen to that occasionally. I think I listen to that soundtrack at least once a week. For real, once a week, all the way through. Whenever I get to Unmade, it just sends chills, really does. I love the phrase, and I'm not getting the exact words correct here, but it's, what does he say in the song Unmade? There is nothing up my sleeve. And I love that because that connects so vividly in my mind anyway. That connects so vividly with the notion of witches and magic. The magician has something up his sleeve, and witches dealing with magic and things like that. But he says, there's nothing up my sleeve. There's something very, I don't know if pure is the right word, but there's something very honest and direct about that expression. And in many ways, I think it can relate, in some degree anyway, to the way in which the certain events of the film unfold, and what is the focus of the particular Suspiria, the Guadagnino version, which I still admire greatly. But that's one soundtrack. The other soundtrack that I listen to quite intensely is Mishima, the Philip Glass soundtrack of Mishima. Now, I have my old CD, which I bought many, many years ago, and I still have it. The CD case is cracked, and it's a bit scratched up. It's quite a bit scratched up, actually, but I still listen to that constantly. And in fact, that was the last thing I listened to for New Year's. I wanted to listen to something of some significance in my mind anyway, and I thought the closing of Mishima, that soundtrack, is to me one of the most sublime things I've ever listened to, and I love that so much. And that soundtrack is it's otherworldly, and it's also very it's tonally very earthy, and with the violins and the strings. You can feel the roughness almost, and well, there's of course there is a logic order to this, but it's, I think, more palatable. Well, not palatable. It's easier to listen to as far as Philip Glass's early works are concerned. I mean, you can try to get into something like, if you haven't heard of Philip Glass music before, and you want to try to dive into something like, Einstein on the Beach. I don't know. That's a little bit. It's a little bit of a tall order, I think, because Einstein on the Beach is a very demanding work. But I think something like Mishima is still unadulterated Philip Glass music to the max, and it's still also very easy to listen to. It's very easy to get into if one hasn't yet experienced and explored the works of Philip Glass. And so I love that appeal, that cross, that sort of broad appeal that the Mishima soundtrack has, and it's still very deep, and it's really quite lovely and wonderful. So those are the soundtracks that come to mind, I think, immediately for me. Kunal Roy, hello. So I hope you're well. I remember Doctor Who from the 80s. Yes. And in fact, one of the first episodes I ever saw of Doctor Who on TV when I was living in England was the Sylvester McCoy episode of Dragonfire. So, which has a very one of the most famous cliffhangers in Doctor Who history. And Jay Biddy says, "What is your favorite Agatha Christie story?" Mine is Murder on the Orient Express. I love Murder on the Orient Express. I love that story very much. I love the novel. I love the Sidney Lumet film. And I've started to... I'm not quite a fan of the Alfred Molina version, but I'm starting to warm to the David Suchet television film version of Murder on the Orient Express. I think that's one of the early screen performances by Jessica Chastain, if I'm not mistaken. She plays a very important role in that film, and she's very good in that, I must add. But I love Murder on the Orient Express. My favorite novel probably it has to be maybe Ordeal by Innocence, or maybe Five Little Pigs, or And Then There Were None is I think it's a supreme classic. But maybe Five Little Pigs, Ordeal by Innocence. I love also Endless Night. I don't know if you know that one, but Endless Night is great. And I actually, am I right? Endless Night is going to be released, or it hasn't been released already by Indicator. I must have been. I'm a little bit behind with my Indicator new release information. I don't have it on immediate recall, but I think it's going to be released Endless Night, and with Hugh Bennett and Haley Mills, and that's a really interesting Christie adaptation. Really interesting. Britt Eklund is in that one as well. But as far as a novel is concerned, I think that's really great. There's also the let's see. I admire The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, but I can't say that I really love that story. I really admire its construction, very much so. But I think, Five Little Pigs, Cricket House, of course. Cricket House that is a twisted story. That is really twisted. That's great. And also as far as short story collections are concerned, I think my favorite has to be the Hound of Death stories. Although I do have a fondness for the Mysterious Mr. Quinn collection, as well as the I am a fan of Tommy and Tuppence, very much so. And also, as far as the early stuff, I'm not a big fan of most of the early stuff, but I am a champion I do like to champion Seven Dials Mystery. I know that doesn't get a lot of love, and it's sometimes criticized for being kind of all over the place as far as an early sort of thriller type of mystery plot from Agatha Christie's early period, or early career. But I really admire that work very much. And there's a particular device that she uses, which seems almost in one, maybe one part of one chapter, and it doesn't occur in the entire book, but there's one part of one chapter. It's around maybe 2/3 of the way through the book. I don't want to say too much, but it feels very Roger Ackroydian. Let me put it that way. It's very, very clever. I don't get it. I don't hear it being mentioned very much. But if I ever get a chance to talk about Seven Dials Mystery, the novel, I'd love to talk about that particular chapter, or it's the first part of that chapter. It's a really brilliant use of expectation and non-expectation. Let me just put it that way. I really admire that, and I love the I think it's the I want to say, what is it? There's the LWT, London Weekend Television adaptation that was done in the early '80s with Cheryl Campbell as Bundle Brent, Lady Eileen Bundle Brent, and also John Gielgud as Lord Caterham. Who is the father of the Bundle Brent character, but the main character in that is probably Bundle Brent, and also what's his name, Harry Andrews as Superintendent Battle, which I thought was a really, I mean, Superintendent Battle is probably one of the more, he's probably one of the blander of the detective characters in the Agatha Christie canon, I admit, but I think Harry Andrews is a perfect choice to play Superintendent Battle, and I don't think he played Superintendent Battle again, but it was, I think it was perfect casting. And also James Warwick is in that film, in that TV adaptation, and James Warwick is great. He's Tommy in the early Tommy and Tuppence TV serial, and also he plays, what's his name? He plays Jimmy Thesiger in the Seven Dials Mystery here. Really, really great. And I actually remember when I was living in, I think I was living in London as a little kid. I was really into Agatha Christie stuff, and my parents knew this, and so they took me to a stage performance of And Then There Were None. And I think it was James Warwick was playing Philip Lombard, and on the stage version that we saw, and that was such a great thing. And I think it was in London, actually, and it was so great. And it was great to see James Warwick live on stage playing Philip Lombard. I was such a thrill. I was also very fortunate to have been able to see The Mousetrap on stage, and I thought that was really fun, and really, really fun. Oh gosh, those are great times, really great times. I don't. Incidentally, speaking of stage, fun stage plays that I saw as a kid. It's not an Agatha Christie work, but I don't know if you've ever seen the stage play of The Woman in Black, but that gave me nightmares. That play gave me nightmares. Oh man! And we were sitting in the back, and I think if you sit in the back, I don't want to say too much, but if you sit in the back, there's some things happen that are just like, oh my goodness, what a great time that was! What a great time. Anyway, sorry about that. Let's see. Kunal Roy says, "I remember Home and Away and Neighbors." Yes, some of the plot details are a little bit foggy for me now, but that was I remember particularly, was it Pippa and Alf and Elsa? Alf and Elsa were together, and there was also Bobby and Mr. Fisher, and Mr. Fisher, and yes, that was a great time. And there was also the plot line of like some mysterious person was poisoning cows or something like that, or there was a mystery about that, and I don't quite remember. And there was a crossover. There was this gosh, I forget his name. He appeared in both Neighbors and Home and Away as two separate characters, and I thought that was rather revolutionary for me. I was very, very young at the time, but Let's see. FJ says there's a great yakitori restaurant in Roppongi called Agatha. The owner is a great fan of her books. Great food too. I didn't know that. Wow, FJ, thank you so much for that information. I will have to check it out. Roppongi, yakitori restaurant called Agatha. Well done. Thank you so much. I learn something new every day. Thank you very much for that. I will make a note of that. Let's see. Jay Betty says, "LOL, no Neighbors." Yes, I haven't seen Neighbors recently, but this was way back in the early days. What was that line? What was that line? I forget. I forget the characters' names, but uh, was it "I Love You Too, Clarky" or something like that? The early days, but it wasn't the earliest part. There's Mrs. Mangle, of course, but every time I see the film Picnic at Hanging Rock, I don't know if you know this film, it's in the Criterion Collection, but every time I see the film Picnic at Hanging Rock, I'm always reminded of Neighbors because of the Mrs. Mangle connection. But let's see. Okay. And Kaori Saha Daisuke, the Aussie soap opera fan. Yes, I haven't seen any operas, Australian soap operas recently, but yeah, I did watch. What was the name? Madge and Harold, I think. Yeah, that was. I don't know why I was watching all these. I think it was just around the time I got home from school. Maybe that was it. And there would be the reruns. They would always show they would be in the early afternoon, and then the later afternoon would be the repeat. And I think I would just be it would just be around the time that I got home from school, and I just watch a little bit of TV just to unwind. And I think that would always be on. So that was probably the reason why I got into that. Hot Peppers here. Hello. Yes, Kari says, did you not check out British soaps while living in the UK? Not really, not really. I wasn't, I knew of British soaps like Coronation Street, EastEnders, and the like, but I admit they didn't necessarily catch on with me as much as I think they should have, perhaps. But I mean, what did I watch other than Australian soap operas? My father was a big fan of what was it, the film, the Bill? Is that was about the police officers? And I love the closing credits. It would always be like the closing credits. It would just be the back of was it like the feet as they were walking or something? That was great. The Bill, and also Allo Allo. I thought that was really kind of a weird comedy show, but I remember liking it at the time. And oh gosh, what was it? It's not a drama, but there was also it was kind of a game show called. Do you remember? Richard O'Brien. Richard O'Brien is probably very well known for his Rocky Horror Picture Show work. In the Rocky Horror Picture Show, the film version, he was Riff Raff. But he had a show, he was a host, and I think he was a producer of the show, The Crystal Maze. I don't know does anyone out there remember The Crystal Maze? I don't know if you do, but I was so hooked on the Crystal Maze. They had these worlds, and these people had to come in, and they had to actually solve these actual problems that were set out in real time, and they had to work together and all that. And at the end, they had to collect however many keys or something, and then the final challenge would be they had to be in a room, and all these papers were blowing, and they had to get the gold paper or something like that. Oh, that was such a great show, The Crystal Maze. And wasn't there also another one called A Scavenger Hunt or something like that, where you had someone, what was her name, Annika Rice or Annabelle Croft or something? Maybe I'm mixing the two. Maybe they're two separate hosts or something. But they actually had to do a scavenger hunt. There were the contestants that were in a studio, and the host of the show was actually out in a helicopter somewhere in England, and the contestants had to tell her where to go to get the next clue in order to ultimately try to find some treasure, some planted treasure somewhere. And that was such what a wild concept. That was so great. You actually had the host of the show having to travel across the the countryside of England in a helicopter trying to find some treasure for the contestants, and sometimes they got it wrong, and so you went in a completely dead end, and so but I'm not remembering correctly, but it was something like that. But let's see. Sexy Monkey says, hi, Daisuke. Yes, we still have W.H. Smiths here. Oh, that's great. Next 24 Rider says W.H. Smith are still going. Great. J. Betty, but John Menzies has gone. Oh, okay. JR62, hi, Daisuke. It's morning here, just having my coffee. Good to see you. Likewise, I hope you're enjoying your coffee, and I hope you have a nice day. Let's see. Sexy Monkey says, I'm skipping around here. Gosh. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, I just jumped. I apologize in mid. Sorry about this. Gosh, I just jumped. Sorry about this. I just jumped in the chat. I do this sometimes. Let's see. Sorry about this. Well, so many. Wow, great. Oh yes. Okay, and then so you're saying that your post office turned into a W.H. Smith's. Dex, Happy New Year, Daisuke, and everyone else. Happy New Year to you too, my friend. I hope you're well. Jay Biddy says, it's like Daisuke has had a dictionary for a snack. Okay, that's very kind of you. Thank you. I think. Yeah, so, let's see. X24 Rider, ITV still rerun Poirot on ITV3 most of the time. Oh, that's great. I love Poirot. I really love Poirot. I don't want to start quoting Poirot. If I do, I won't go to sleep. So let's see. Reese is here. Hello, Daisuke. John Perry, Tontine. Yes, Tontine is a really great part of the 1966 movie The Wrong Box, which has a stellar cast, recently released on Blu-ray by Indicated. Well done, actually. That's an interesting. Where else has Tontine been mentioned in cinema? That's probably a good research project, or maybe not. I don't know. But thank you very much for that. That's a good start to the research project anyway. LJ, good evening, Daisuke, and you have a good day tomorrow. Thank you. Fixing to get ready to head off to church. I hope you have a good rest of your day. It's Sunday, right? So I hope you have a good Sunday, my friend. Be well. Helsinki Renaissance Arts Channel, The Wrong Box has a truly magical cast. I agree. I absolutely agree. Tim Holm, Happy New Year, Daisuke. I hope you have been having a great holiday with your family. There is an Agatha Christie fan group on Facebook. I might invite you to that if that's all right. Oh, I didn't know you were a member of that group, and I didn't even know that the group existed. So that's fine. Yeah, thank you. I would appreciate the invite. Let's see. Tim Holmes has just ordered a Hayao Miyazaki Blu-ray box set as a New Year's gift for myself. That's great. Jambo Shango and the Randy Moles movie show. I love you guys. Happy New Year, buddy. It's great to see you. Hot Peppers says, how do you feel about City of God? I saw the film recently. It was quite the interesting work. Yes, I too think it's quite interesting. I did see it rather contemporary to its release. Really quite a kind of an arresting work. Let's see, Dunkel Fester. Hello, howdy, Daisuke. Your channel is one of the ones I've been watching most often on YouTube lately. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. I've gotten into collecting and cultivating a Criterion collection very much over the last few months. Yes, I'm glad to hear that. I think collecting Criterion Collection physical media releases is part of the fun. So I hope you enjoy it. And it's good too because there are also, I'm sure you know this already, but you take advantage of all the sales that occur over the course of the year. So hopefully the next one might be around February or so. I don't know. Always keep an eye out for the Criterion Collection flash sales when they come up. Make sure you are on the Criterion Collection mailing list. So you can get notifications from them as soon as something comes up, and also Barnes & Noble as well. Hopefully the Barnes & Noble sales will continue throughout the course of this year. Fingers crossed, of course. So usually they fall in July and was it November? All right, so hopefully that'll still continue throughout this year. Let's see. Sexy Monkey says, watching your videos has become expensive. On your recommendations, I've bought Jean Diomande, 23 Quai du Commerce, EE, and A Brighter Summer Day Criterion. 3 of the best are my favorite films in the Criterion Collection. I haven't spoken in great detail about Jean Diamand 23 Quai de Commerce, 1080 Bruxelles, but one of these days, I really want to. I was thinking one day it would be great to talk about that in a live stream, to talk about Jean Diamand 23 Quai de Commerce, 1080 Bruxelles would be, that's what would be a dream come true. There's so much there, just the little details, the little things that are done that are a little bit not quite right, but they're there, but it's kind of an interesting exercise to try to catch every single thing, and so and that's just part of the fun of the film. That is one of the greats. I hope you enjoy those. Of course, and A Brighter Summer Day. I've spoken about those films in some detail on some videos. I think maybe last year on this YouTube channel. Such a pleasure. Those in particular, I think I'm the proudest of. I'm very honored to do this YouTube channel, very much so, and it's been very enlightening for me to hear all these comments and discussions from you, my dear friends. But I think for me, one of the proudest things I've ever done here is a set of videos where I had the great opportunity to talk about the films of Edward Yang. Those were, I still look back on those with a lot of fondness and much pride. And so in particular, there were the Brighter Summer Day videos that I did there. They're quite long, maybe a bit bloated, quite a bit bloated in terms of my discussion style. I completely get that, but it's like I've mentioned it before. It's sort of like the scorpion and the frog, right? I can't help it. It's in my nature. But be that as it may, I'm really proud of those discussions because Edward Yang is a filmmaker that means so much to me, and in particular, A Brighter Summer Day, and of course, but A Brighter Summer Day. That's the one for me. And I was mentioning it earlier in this live stream. Sometimes I get the comment. I've gotten comments quite often. People just randomly coming up to me or sending a comment to me and saying, "Hey Daisuke, thank you very much, because I saw your video on A Brighter Summer Day and it inspired me to get it, and I saw it for the first time and I was blown away by it." So I think I received a comment like that very recently. I think someone left a comment. I haven't responded to it yet, maybe on a Starman video I did, but I should check that. But that makes me so happy, because A Brighter Summer Day is, I was thinking about it, and it still is my favorite film in the Criterion Collection. It's my favorite film in the Criterion Collection. It might not necessarily have the best set of supplements. It might not necessarily have the best overall presentation in terms of visual presentation, cover art design, etc. But as a film, and the state of the film prior to its release in the Criterion Collection, I mean, it was a kind of a mess. It was really a mess. And it was hard to get a good it was impossible to get a really good quality copy of that. And then the Criterion Collection version came out, and it was just sublime in terms of its presentation. And not only that, it was the chance to discover or rediscover one of the great modern masterpieces of cinema. It's one of the great modern masterpieces of cinema. It's one of the great examples of time just going by like that. 4 hours flies. 4 hours just fly by in an instant, because the drama is that captivating. And so I'm very happy to hear this, and I hope you enjoy those three films. Matthew Kolka's here. Hello, Happy New Year. The Bruce Lee set has me jazzed. What other titles are worthy of the Criterion treatment? Well, that's a very, I'm also very excited about the possibility of a Bruce Lee set. That's great. It'll be a nice sort of follow-up kind of, I suppose, to the Police Story and Police Story 2 set, I suppose, from 2019. Yeah, the Bruce Lee films I think are really good. As far as Criterion treatment, let me get back to you on that because there's so many. And Kunal Roy's Happy New Year, Daisuke. I'm a new subscriber. Love your videos. Well, thank you very much, Kunal Roy. Thank you. That means a lot. I hope you're well. And here's to a good 2020. I hope you have a great 2020. And I hope to have the great honor and privilege to be able to have more discussions with you over the course of this year and hear what kinds of films that you are interested in. I'm always interested to hear about one's favorite films and the like. So SJS Films, our dear friend, Happy New Year. I hope you're well. Oh, great. Okay. I'm going to be skipping around your people's comments here, so if I skipped your comment, I apologize, but it is now a little bit after 11 p.m. and I just have to start getting ready for bed, so if I skip your comment, I apologize. But let's see. Tim Holmes says, I'm considering getting the Nikatsu Diamond Guys releases from Arrow. Get those if you can. They're real. Yeah, I would recommend getting those if you can. You don't have to spend they're not out of print, are they? If they're out of print and they're being offered for extravagant prices, I don't know if it's worth it. But if they're not out of print, they're great. Alteron Kaijo, oh, hello, my dear friend. Full of peace and enlightenment for us all. Happy New Year's to you. What a lovely New Year's greetings. I hope you're well. Let's see. JR62 says, I saw your photos on Instagram and you are indeed an exceptional man with a wonderful family. I thank you very much for that, but I must humbly disagree with that. That's, thank you, but I have, I'm very fortunate. I must admit it hasn't always been an easy time in terms of my own sort of film journey and my own life up to now, and I don't claim to try to I don't want to seem like I'm, that's one of the things that I'm always trying to figure out how best to deal with, with YouTube and also Instagram and Facebook and stuff. I don't want to seem like I'm kind of showing off and that sort of thing. I'm very proud of some of the things that I'm very fortunate to have in my life, and I'm also very happy to try to share this thing that I really, really love. I love films so much, and I also love the opportunity to be able to talk about that. So, but if it ever seems like I'm showing off or something like that, just let me know, and I'll try to fix my presentation style, because that's not my intent at all. It's not. But I'm just very fortunate. I'm very, very fortunate. So it's not all wine and roses, of course. I mean, there are always issues that I think we all face, and myself included. But I think probably the most difficult time in my life rather recently was some years back. That was when both of my parents died around the same time, very suddenly and very unexpected. I'm not saying this in any kind of trying to gain sympathy. I really am not saying this, but I think my point is that I understand how sometimes things can come up in life that are very sort of like really just sudden and unexpected and sometimes rather unpleasant. And so I'm always I don't want to seem like anything I put on Instagram or YouTube or something is overly inappropriate. I'm always trying to be cognizant of that, because I think we all have our own experiences, but and our own particular set of lifestyles and lives that we lead. And I know that, you know, I think I was once, I don't know if maybe not criticized was not the right word, but I do appreciate that you know, like watching films is an expensive thing, and you know, DVDs and Blu-rays are an expensive thing. You know, I do acknowledge that, and I don't. First of all, I don't have that extensive a collection, because I don't necessarily buy a lot of the new releases, and I don't buy a lot of things. But I do have Criterion Collection releases, and so I do appreciate the fact that sometimes you know. You know, we all come from different places, and so I don't want to seem sort of overbearing in that sense. And if I'm ever come across like that, just let me know, and I'll certainly try to change it, because that's not my intent. But I really appreciate your very kind compliment all the same, my friend. Thank you so much. Thank you. JR62, our dear friend, everyone's friend here, JR62, always with a really wonderful comment about film and everything else. Let's see, Reese Gallagher, what film movement is one that you'd want to explore more of? I don't know about exploration necessarily, but the one thing that I've always wanted to do on this YouTube channel is talk about the Japanese ATG films. You might know some of the ATG films, you know, the Yoshida box set from Arrow. There is also the Akioji Soji set, the so-called Buddhist trilogy. It's actually 4 films in that set, actually, I think. I mean, I have the UK release, so it has 4 films. But the ATG films, there's also Death by Hanging, which is from the, you can get that in the Criterion Collection. But there are so many others that I'd love to share some thoughts on with you. But I don't know if it's a movement necessarily, as part of it's maybe a subsection of 1970s or late 60s, 70s, early 80s Japanese cinema that's really interesting. But it's probably the last, in many respects, it's one of the last hurrahs, if you will, of truly independent cinema in Japan. Not to say that independent cinema died in Japan. It's still it's still there, but there's a great infusion of money and also accessibility that was a pretty unique combination. It wasn't a perfect movement in my view, but there were a lot of things that were very positive in my view, and it's a very exciting time. And I hear through the grapevine that I think Arrow might be trying to get more ATG films into its release, physical media release. And if that's the case, bravo Arrow, bravo Arrow. I'd love it if Criterion took the same cue, as it were. But I guess beggars can't be choosers, and so I would be appreciative even if it were only Arrow. I mean, I'm saying only Arrow, but Arrow releasing these films would be just a truly magnificent occasion. So let's see. Yes. Okay. Kunal Roy says, from watching your videos, Daisuke, I think you'd make an incredible film studies professor at a university. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. I'm very honored with that very very generous comment. Although I don't know, I think I'd be very man. Professors have a tough job sometimes, a really tough job. You know, I remember, again, I'm just going off, but you know, some of the classes I took in college, man, gosh, they were just, I don't know what I was thinking. Oh man, some of those professors really had a tough time just trying to get all that stuff into one semester. I remember there was a class I took, a literature class. It was English translations of the works of Dostoevsky and Tolstoy. Oh, in one semester, and that included War and Peace. And it wasn't just War and Peace on the syllabus. I think it was War and Peace, Crime and Punishment. and Anna Karenina, I think. It's just a crazy syllabus. And it was just one semester. It wasn't 1 year, it was one semester. And they're all English translations. It was intense, very intense. But so professors, I think, have a tough time, and I don't think I'd ever be able to do that. But your words are much appreciated all the same, my friend. Thank you very much. Jimmy, hello. It's nice to see you. Endless Mike is here. Hello. And Sexy Monkey says, I love the insight that you gave on your taxi driver discussion stream. Thank you very much. Taxi driver, yes, that was I think my last live stream film club. I think I really have to pick that up again. I must apologize. December was a very busy month, and I really want to pick that up again. But that's very kind of you, taxi driver. Yeah, that was a really wonderful occasion to revisit that film. I think that's such a remarkable achievement. It's Scorsese's French New Wave film in many respects, and such a delightful conversation. I enjoyed that very much, and I enjoyed preparing for that very much. I enjoyed watching that film again very much. It was great to try to organize my thoughts. Not organize. What's the word I should? Or organize. It was nice to be able to organize my thoughts on that film. So thank you very much for those kind words. You're very kind. And Jimmy says, "Hello, sir. You rock. Love your videos." With one, thank you. Wow, with a super chat. Thank you very much. Completely not necessary, my friend. But thank you all the same. I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you. You're very kind indeed. Knuckles96, Happy New Year, Ben. Cher ami, Ben. I hope you're well. Happy New Year to you too. Yes, Knuckles96 says, if I remember correctly, the bizarre cliffhanger at the end of Dragonfire Part 1 was a result of relevant scene being cut or something along those lines. Yes, but the end result is truly fascinating. It's a cliffhanger. It's the ultimate cliffhanger. I mean, if you thought the Sylvester Stallone film called Cliffhanger was an apropos title, wait till you get a load of the end of the first episode of Dragonfire with Sylvester McCoy. That is something to behold. Great. Absolutely great. I love it. I absolutely love it. And let's see. A Pone, hello. What do you think of the film Qui-Gon from 1965? You know, that's interesting. I had the great fortune of being able to conduct a live stream discussion of the film Qui-Gon from 1965. So if you are interested, I think the live stream discussion has now been uploaded as a video on this channel. And so I was discussing that film, I think, for maybe a couple hours, and I was interacting with people in the live chat. So you can, if you're interested in some thoughts that I have, I spoke about each of the episodes within that film itself, because as you know, it's an omnibus film. But if you're interested, and if you don't mind, please, it would be great. I really consider it a great honor. Please check it out if you have the time, and if you want to leave a comment there, and I still read the comments from that video, so you can certainly do that if you like. Dennis, hello, Happy New Year. I finally managed to get around to watch The Emperor's Naked Army Marches On and Hara's two previous films. I really love the sheer rawness and intimacy of the films. Yes. The Emperor's Naked Army Marches On. I'm so glad that got a Blu-ray release. That is one of the best things that happened last year, I think, as far as Blu-ray releases are concerned. That's great. I mean, if I could do an overall best Blu-ray releases of the year, not just Criterion, I think that would be at the top of my list. I think. Thank you so much for this comment. It makes me very happy. And Anita Bong hit 2.0. Daisuke, what are your thoughts on One Car Wise as Tears goes by? Oh, yeah, don't get me started. Yeah, that's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I hope that gets included in whatever the Criterion is planning for that box set. Knock on wood, fingers crossed. I think it will be. Oh gosh. Oh gosh, hold on. Sorry about this. Let me just check one thing here. I think just my mail. I think my mail is doing something here. Oh, my computer's kind of faulty, so just give me a second here, and I'll just be setting up in 1 second. Sorry about this. What was I saying? Yes, so let's anticipate the Wong Kar-wai set and the inclusion of that film, hopefully. Let's see. Okay, sorry, I'm just skipping around here. Dungeon Studios here, hello. Joe Barish at the Movies is here, hello. Sorry about this. I'm just skipping around here. And X24 Rider says, I love the Crystal Maze. Yes, I'm so happy to. Oh, yes. And JR62 says, the Crystal Maze is on YouTube. I didn't really? The Crystal Maze is on YouTube? I didn't know that. Oh, gosh. Gosh. Will wonders ever cease? The Crystal Maze, I will have to check that out next time. Maybe I'll check that out tomorrow on the train. Oh, thank you so much. That makes me very happy. The Crystal Maze, was that ever released on DVD? Gosh, it's probably a controversial thing to say, but that would be great if the Criterion Collection released the series of the Crystal Maze on Blu-ray. That would certainly be an interesting thing to see. I mean, we did see releases like Fishing with John and Golden Age of Television, and the Beastie Boys music videos, anthology DVD set, and that. But the Crystal Maze on a Criterion release. It doesn't have to be Criterion, but oh gosh. Wolfgratz, thank you very much. So Annabelle Croft was an adequate replacement for Rice in Treasure Hunt. Thank you, Treasure Hunt. That was the name of the show. It wasn't Scavenger Hunt. It was Treasure Hunt. Thank you very much. So yes, thank you so much for that. I'm glad I was able to. I'm glad you were able to correct me about that. Thank you. Let's see. I'm skipping around here. Johnny Fuerte is here. It's nice to see you. Happy New Year. Love to hear your take on all things cinema. My brother saw me watching your videos and said you were super nice. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Say hello to your brother as well. I hope you and your brother are well and having a good start to the new year. Skylar, my friend, my dear friend Skylar, I hope you're well. I hope you and your lovely family are well, and all my best to you. And I hope you have a great 2020. Let's talk again very soon, in your own good time, of course. There's no need to hurry, my friend. And again, my warmest regards to you and your family. Let's see. Again, I'm skipping around here. Pacero. I hope I get that. Oh, man, so sorry if I mispronounce. Hey, Daisuke, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too. And let's see. Let's see. I'm just skipping around here because it is getting it's getting close to 11:30 p.m. and I must get going soon. I had a little bit of time to myself today, and so I went to the gym because I like to go to the gym, and I did a little bit of extra exercise, more than I'm used to, and I think my legs are a little bit, they're feeling the pain. So I'm sitting here. I don't know if you know this, but this setup is in the sort of the spare room of my apartment here in Tokyo, or my family's house here, or my family's apartment here in Tokyo. And I sit on the floor, and I should set up a chair, because actually every time I do these videos on the floor, I have to sit cross-legged. And it's tough, because when I stand up, I sit for some considerable length of time, and it's such that I have to, every time I finish a video, I have to slowly extend my leg, and I'm doing that right now, because my leg actually hurts. Ow. Okay, so I think it, and it hurts especially now because I overdid my training. But let me just give this another few minutes if you don't mind, and then I can start to get ready for bed tomorrow. But this has been so fun. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to connect with all of you, my friends, live, as it were, warts and all. So thank you. So Dungeon Studio, our friend Dungeon Studio, Happy New Year. Daisuke, is there a rare film that you've seen that maybe only 3 other people know? It's a good question. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I think maybe the one that I think might be I don't know if it's a rare film necessarily, but it's one that's very difficult to get. And it's one that's, I think it's almost impossible to watch now in English anyway. And that's I've spoken about it on this channel, and it's the Edward Yang film Mahjong. That is, as far as releases go, as of this point in time, it's never been. I think you can try to find it floating around, and maybe on an old, what do you call it, a DVD or something like that. Maybe you can, once in a while you can find it on eBay or something. But it's, as far as I can tell, it's very difficult to watch, and so, or very difficult to get one's hands on. And so, which is a shame, because Mahjong as an Edward Yang film is a spectacular work. It is really spectacular, and it falls it falls kind of in between A Brighter Summer Day and EE. So it has that trajectory, and it's a very mature work in terms of the cultivation and development of themes that we've seen developed or discussed and explored by Edward Yang and crew, all the way from the very beginning of his career. That Day on the Beach, Taipei Story, Terrorizers, and in particular, Terrorizers, Brighter Summer Day, and Mahjong have this really interesting through line. There's also a film in between A Brighter Summer Day and Mahjong, of course, which is a Confusion. But I think Mahjong in particular is very difficult to see, at least as far as this point in time is concerned. Hint, hint, wink, wink to the Criterion Collection people. If ever you are able to get your hands on Mahjong, that would be something. If Mahjong were ever released by Arrow or Criterion or Indicator or whoever, or another label, that's one that you have to get. You have to get. That is a really. That's something else. Gosh, and it's a shame that not a lot of people have seen it, especially because there's been a lot of intention given to the works of Edward Yang because of A Brighter Summer Day and EE in particular. It's a very random thing, but wherever I think of EE, I always think of the line, I'm not a magician. EE, that's such a great film. Man, that is such a great film. Okay, sorry about this. So let's see. Sexy Monkey says, Wolfgratz, when I was in someone else's group's live stream last week, someone told me that my voice is like Viagra to them, and requested me to say Jeremy Irons' lines from The Lion King. That is a very interesting comment, Sexy Monkey. That is very interesting. Wow. That's great. That's really great. Let's see. Wolfgratz replies, I have been accused of many things, but never of having Viagra-like qualities. Yes. Yes, that is something that that's a very interesting conversation. FP9623, Happy New Year to you and your family, Daisuke. Happy New Year to you too, my friend. I hope you're well. Matthew, hello. Happy New Year. Let's see. I was wondering if you've spoken about Criterion release and re-releasing Come and See this year. The restoration looks incredible. I haven't seen the restoration. The rumor was around for actually a number, maybe a year or so. I actually had predicted now quite inaccurately that Criterion would release Come and See at the beginning of 2019, but I was completely off the mark on that. I've been anticipating this release for some time. I mean, I haven't seen the restoration, but I've seen the film. It's that is a haunting, tough film. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, if you know what I mean. It's one of those films that just stays with you. It really stays with you, and there are mysteries about it that even now I don't fully comprehend. Certain moments in the film that are just so elliptical and thus very mysterious. You're not quite sure what's going on some of the time, and it's devastating, absolutely devastating. I cannot wait for this to be made readily available, hopefully in a physical media Blu-ray release coming very soon from the Criterion Collection. So I understand that in all likelihood it's going to be arriving in the Criterion Collection. It's just a matter of when. That would be so great. So yes, if and when it does arrive, and I'm pretty sure it's when more than if, then I hope to be able to explore that film again. That's something else. That's yes. Let's see. Dungeon Studio says your live streams are filmed like Orson Welles' Citizen Kane. LOL. Wow, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much. I've never spoken about Citizen Kane, but I really admire that film very much. Although there's always one thing about Citizen Kane that I always I never understood, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but the Joseph Cotten flashback includes the story about Charles Foster Kane and his wife. That famous scene with the breakfast table that turns into years, and we see the disintegration of the marriage. As symbolized by the ever elongating breakfast table over the course of years, which is expressed in mere moments, right? But that flashback is included in the Joseph Cotten flashback, and so I always wondered, how did the Joseph Cotten character know about the marital difficulties between Charles Foster Kane and his wife, because he wasn't present at the breakfasts, right? And so I always thought that was an interesting thing. So I always thought that was a subliminal indication that the Joseph Cotten character might have been having some kind of there might have been a relationship. I'm not suggesting that there was an affair, but there might have been a relationship, and I think this was partially acknowledged. It's partially acknowledged by Orson Welles in one of the later interviews he gave about Citizen Kane, about how I think part of the approach. And again, I'm just going off the top of my head here, and I haven't really thought this through, so please don't quote me on this. But I think part of the approach that he was thinking about was the possibility of turning Citizen Kane into something more akin to Rashomon, the Kurosawa film Rashomon, and the idea of the flashback structure somehow being potentially unreliable because it's acknowledged as being from a subjective point of view. But ultimately, he didn't necessarily follow through with that conceit necessarily. So I don't think we're necessarily meant to see Citizen Kane straightforwardly, I don't know if that's a word, but in terms of a straightforward approach to the unreliability of flashback structure narrative. And so if that's the case, then I think we can look at the Joseph Cotten flashback structure and seeing it just more straightforward as a presentation of the storyline. Although I do like the idea that the fact that he does reveal that part of the Kane marriage, as a means of or a suggestion that maybe there was a closeness in the relationship there, but. Oh well, sorry about that. So Yeah, Wolfgratz, exactly. How does he know about the cane breakfast? How does he know? I mean, maybe he heard about it. I don't know, but I mean, there weren't necessarily in enclosed rooms or private cut-off rooms necessarily. So it's not like, and I don't think Charles Foster Kane doesn't strike me as being the type of character that would necessarily feel the need to hide that sort of thing if there was some kind of marital trouble. I don't think he'd feel the need to hide that. I don't think he'd be able to hide that from his friends anyway. But oh well, oh well. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Joel Barish at the movie says, "What are some of your favorite authors and screenwriters?" Well, that I think that could take another couple hours at least. I've been, I think, as I get older, I've been very taken with the works of John Updike, and I've also been, let's see, I'm very much taken with. Let me see here. I mentioned Agatha Christie earlier in this live stream. I'm also, who have I been reading recently that I really, really admire? Let's see. I will always be I will always be a lover of the works of Hemingway. I've just I'm just stunned. I love the use or subtle use or non-use of the English language. And I don't love all the works of F. Scott Fitzgerald, but The Great Gatsby is famous for a very good reason, I think, because it's just a phenomenal read. It goes by just like that, but that's a book that I love reading slowly. I love reading that book so slowly because that to me is just a sublime use of the English language, very, very much so. Let's see. I also like the works. I mean, if we're talking about modern authors, I'm a very big admirer of Kazuo Ishiguro. I was talking with someone, an online friend, just recently about The Remains of the Day, the book and the film, and I really love the book very much so. But I think the film is a superior version of that story. Sorry, Ishiguro fans out there. I really love the book, but the film just does the story one better. In my personal opinion, but that doesn't take away from the power of the novel itself. I think that the novel is so powerful and so rich and so sad, and it really is a superior jump from, I think, some of his other works. Which I think many of his. I really love "Never Let Me Go," and I really love "The Unconsoled." I don't know if you know this work, "The Unconsoled." That doesn't get a lot of love, I think, but that's one that I find very bizarre and very strange, almost Kafkaesque in some ways. Although I do admit that parallel is a little bit forced, but not many people like The Unconsoled, but I really do. I think that's quite a good work. I'm not a big fan of the earlier works of Ishiguro, but I like the later works very much, or the mid period of his career. Yeah, so many other. But maybe I've been asked about some of the. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sorry, just clearing my throat. I apologize, but I've sometimes been asked what books I like to read, and so I don't like to focus on books on this channel, and that's not for any particular reason other than I don't want to necessarily. That would just be another thing that I would be. I'd love to talk about, but it's just so much to do, so little time, and so I've sort of made a conscious decision not necessarily to focus on books that I read as far as this particular YouTube channel is concerned. But I do love read. I love reading books in the English language. I do read some works in Japanese, but I was educated in the U.S., and so there's something I feel a kind of a close knit affinity, or there's something quite exciting that happens whenever I read a really great work of literature in the English language. But maybe one of these days I can focus a video on that. I'm not sure if I'll be able to, but one of these days, maybe if you're interested, I don't know. But let's see. Sorry about this. I'm just getting a. Let's see. Just skipping around with the comments here. I see blue collars being mentioned in the tail end of the live chat here. My goodness, yes. Don't get me started on blue collar. Yeah, that is a powerful work. Really great. Really great. So let's see. So I'm gonna be. It's almost 11:40 now, so I'm gonna be shutting down. So I hope you don't mind if I didn't answer your question. Please forgive me, but I'm just. Eman Tool here. Manos is here. Hello. I hope you're well, my friend. Giovanni Bolivar, my dear friend. Hello. Happy New Year, Daisuke. My apologies if this has been asked, but any thoughts on the Criterion's New Year's newsletter illustration? I'm particularly excited about a potential Wong Kar-wai release. Well, let me end on this. So yeah, so the Wong Kar-wai box set was rumored, I think from sometime in mid last year, I think mid 2019. So that wasn't a surprise, although it's still great to see, and hopefully this means that it's going to be coming very, very soon, I hope. Same is true for the Agnes Varda box set. I know that was rumored. I don't know how strong those rumors were, but that was the Fellini box set. Now, the Fellini box set, as far as I understand it, based on rumors, and again, I don't have any inside information on this, but my understanding is that it seems like this is going to be a continuation. If you're talking about big box sets, we had the Ingmar Bergman box set from a couple years back. Then we had the Godzilla set, Spine 1000, of course. My understanding is that maybe the Fellini box set will be falling on that big box set time of the year, whenever it was. I think it was maybe October, November, or something like that. And so maybe a little bit earlier, perhaps. But that's my general sense, based on the swirl of rumors that I see on, but again, I could be wrong. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm just clearing my throat. I could be wrong, but that's my general understanding, that of those box sets, maybe the big one will be the Fellini set. But that's not to take anything away, at all from the potential Wong Kar-wai set, which I think will be a very comprehensive. That's my understanding. It will potentially be a very comprehensive set. Agnes Varda set as well. Welcome, absolutely welcome. And then the fourth set, the consensus seems to be Bruce Lee. And if that's the case, I have not heard any rumors up to now about any Bruce Lee release, and so that was a pleasant surprise. Assuming that it is going to be a Bruce Lee set, I was thinking that. Well, actually, I'm very poor with these newsletter clues. I never am able to get them. I'm never able to guess. So. I was looking at the one clue, that probably indicates the Agnes Varda set, and I was looking at it. It was a box on Yes or something. Yeah, what is this? Yes. But as far as the Bruce Lee set is concerned, my understanding is that those Shout Select Blu-rays from the U.S. of Game of Death and Return of the Dragon and Chinese Connection and Fist of Fury, my understanding is those are out of print. Am I right? I could be wrong about that, but I did hear someone say that, and I don't keep up with this news, but actually I have those Blu-rays. I was very fortunate to get those because I like the Shout Select series. I don't have all of the Shout Select, but they have Elvis, the Carpenter TV movie Elvis, and Wild at Heart, the David Lynch from Wild at Heart. That's also Shout Select too, right? And then also the Bruce Lee films and the is what is it? Is Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension? Is that also Shout Select? I think, and a bunch of others. But yeah, I think those Bruce Lee films from Shout Select are out of print. If so, this is it's great to have them in the Criterion Collection. It'd be wonderful to see. I can't wait to see, for instance, what they would do with the cover art for if anything else. And I love those Shout Select Bruce Lee releases. And the commentaries are really great. Although I did mention it earlier in this live stream, I think those commentaries are great. But I don't know if you've listened to those. But as great as they are, they're a little bit hard to listen to sometimes because I think the recording facilities might not have been the best possible quality. I'm not sure. That's not to take anything away from the commentary content itself, which I think is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. To have commentary tracks for these Bruce Lee films is amazing, really, really great stuff. And so, if Criterion were to release, I'd just love it if they could have a commentary track for each of the films. It would be great. And it would be a nice, in a certain way, it would be a nice kind of follow-up to the Police Story and Police Story 2 release from Criterion from last year, and so that would be very nice. Again, if we think about the great artwork from that release, I can only imagine what the potential will be for the potential artwork for a Bruce Lee box set, if ever there was one. This assumes, of course, that if there is a Bruce Lee box set, there probably won't be the inclusion of Enter the Dragon, which wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if Enter the Dragon wasn't included, but you never know. You never know. If for whatever reason Enter the Dragon were also included, that would just be amazing. That would absolutely amazing. That would make my day. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Probably not. But we'll see. And I don't even know if all those the earlier Bruce Lee films would be included. I mean, we might just get, if there is a Bruce Lee set, it might just be maybe 2 instead of 4 of them. But we'll see. We shall see. It should be very exciting to anticipate. So, and those are very popular films, and so at least my understanding is that they're popular films, and so I can imagine that release being a very good seller for Criterion, very good indeed. So we'll see. But yeah. So okay. So. Oh, it's Sexy Monkey. You've confirmed it. Yes, Buckaroo Banzai, and also yes, Buckaroo Banzai was also released by Arrow. You're absolutely right. I don't have the Arrow release. I have the Shout Select release. Maybe I should try to be more Buckaroo Banzai complete. Maybe that should be something I should. I'm not being facetious. I'm being very serious there. I enjoy that film very much. I haven't spoken about Buckaroo Banzai on this channel, but maybe one day I do. I will do. It's a film that's maybe similar in vein to a film that I'm going to talk about very soon, which is Big Trouble in Little China. So maybe if I'm still in the sort of that early mid '80s mood, maybe I'll try to find an excuse to try to upload a video on Buckaroo Banzai one of these. I can't make any promises, of course, but there's that. Incidentally, the Big Trouble in Little China, it's up next. So I've done with Christine and Starman. So the next film, right, if I'm not mistaken, is Big Trouble in Little China. So I cannot wait for that. I think I'm actually very, very nervous. Because I don't want to just mess it up, and so I want to make sure I get all the details correct. And that new Scream or Shout Factory release from the U.S. Shout Factory release from Big Trouble in Little China is phenomenal. Excuse me, sorry, I apologize. It's absolutely phenomenal. There are those new interviews are just amazing. Absolutely amazing, and they get at the. I think my favorite is the interview with Carter Wong. That interview with Carter is he's so endearing, such a charming man. Carter Wong is, but the other interviews are great. Dennis Dunn, and what's wonderful about them is that they touch upon one of the things that I really love about this film, and I'll try to talk about that in my video. I think it'll probably be more than one video on the Big Trouble in Little China. I think it'll probably be at least three. I think, but. It's the way in which Asians or Asian Americans are depicted in the film, and I really admire that. There is a sense of kind of Asian American identity, but it's also rooted in an American identity, and I think that's a very important point to bring up. It's one of many important points of the film, but I think it's one of the important points of that film is the way in which Asian identity and Asian American identity, with an emphasis not only under Asian but also under American. I think that is a very significant part of why I think the film is very successful. And why I think I really admire it very much. Officially speaking, I am not American. I don't have a U.S. passport or anything like that. So I'm 100% Japanese by birth and also by citizenship. But I do have I do have a background living in the United States. So I would say that I'm not necessarily Asian American per se, but I do maybe I feel like I can maybe appreciate is the wrong word, but I feel like I have some kinship, shall we say, with the Asian American experience to a certain degree. And so I think through that through line, I feel like I can have a strong connection with the film Big Trouble in Little China. And it's one of the reasons why I find it so endearing and I love it so much. But yes, there we go. So with that, my friends, it's now approaching midnight here, so I'm afraid I will have to say goodbye for now. So thank you very much to all of you who joined, even if it was for a little bit. I'm sorry for my sort of incessant, disorganized way of talking. I hope you can forgive me. And if I missed your comment, I apologize. And so, I didn't mean to. Just I hope you can understand. I'm just trying to keep up as best as possible. But my friends, if you want to ever reach me or talk with me or contact me, the best way you can leave a comment, and I will do my best to respond. You can also I'm on Instagram. I think there's I'm Daisuke Beppu 4. Just one word, Daisuke Beppu 4. I think there were three other Daisuke Beppus in the world that beat me to it. So I'm the fourth Daisuke Beppu, I think, on Instagram. And so, I have a lot of pictures of Blu-rays and stuff. So it's probably easy to figure out who I am on Instagram. So if you want to check that out, you can certainly do so. No pressure, of course. You can do whatever it is you want, and there's no need to do what it is you don't want. So, yes, and I will be in touch very soon, my friends. Pete 1972. Before I go, thank you. It's nice to see you. I hope you have have had a great start to your 2020. And I look forward to talking to you very soon. And to the rest of you, my friends, thank you very much for sticking around, and thank you very much for a great 2019. It's been a fun time, and I look forward to our continuing discussions in this year, 2020. My goodness, can you believe it? Can you believe it? It is already 2020. It is the Olympic year for us here in Tokyo. So very significant. Looking forward to it very much. And it's already, 5 days into January. It was only, I feel like it was January 1st, just like yesterday, but now time flies so much that we're already on the 5th of January. So my goodness. So just take advantage of this time, my friends. What is it? Carpe diem, seize the day. Enjoy yourselves, enjoy the time with your family and friends, and please be well. Take good care of yourselves, and I will talk to you again, hopefully, very, very soon. So, thank you once again for joining me on this impromptu live stream, and I will see you very soon. So, in the meantime, what is it that I say? Please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. So until we meet again, my friends, cheers and take care. And I really mean that, my friends. So please take good care of yourselves, and I will see you very soon. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. I hope the sound is okay. Sometimes, oh, there we go. My leg. That's it. I said that earlier in the live stream. But I sit on the floor here, but whatever I have to. Maybe it's maybe it's my age, perhaps, but my legs are a little bit sore today. But no matter. It was a small price to pay for the great honor of being able to talk to all of you live. So thank you very much for extending to me that great honor and privilege. You really made my day. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day wherever you are in the world. So thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to turn this off and take care. Bye. There we go.